What's going on, everyone? It is me, Lone, and I'm here to talk about Prey, the upcoming game from Bethesda, which is releasing, I think, early May. I can't remember the specific date. Should have looked that up before starting this video. But in any event, I'm really looking forward to this game. In fact, I actually went to a demo event held by Bethesda a couple of weeks back, and I never covered it on my channel. I did get footage for it, but right now I'm showing you something a little bit different because it's more pertinent to the topic, and that is Prey 2. Now, if you don't know, if you haven't been following Prey that closely, there was in fact a different version of Prey called Prey 2, and you're seeing one of the trailers for that game right now in the background. And of course, the look of this game is a significant diversion to what Prey looks like right now. And this has actually gotten a lot of fans upset, and they've already long expressed their discontent with Prey changing so much from Prey 2 to what Prey is now. And there was a long development history behind that, and I'm not going to go into that now. To be honest, no one would really know the truth. We can only really hear snippets and rumors here and there and make our own minds up, but no one really knows the truth behind the development of a game. But suffice it to say, there has been a lot of people expressing their discontent over what Prey has become because of what Prey 2 used to be. Essentially, Prey 2 was going to be this kind of alien bounty hunter style game where you would kill aliens throughout the universe, and now it's become much different. It's more of a spacey type of game. You're not really a bounty hunter. There's this story narrative behind it, being Morgan you, and you're discovering what's happening to you, what kind of world you're living in, and it's more spacey, it's more Bioshock, System Shock-like. So it's a big diversion, right? It is a huge difference, and I think the big reason why some people are unhappy is because they were really looking forward to being that really cool bounty hunter and going around and killing your targets, and that does sound like an awesome concept. It really does, and this is exactly what I wanted to talk about in this video. To an extent, I do understand why people are upset that things changed. I mean, if you are really excited about a particular game that was in development for a while, and you've seen gameplay and you've seen trailers and you've heard about the concept, again, being a bounty hunter in this sci-fi world, you get excited, you get attached, and you want that game to actually come to fruition. And when it doesn't, for whatever reason, of course there's going to be some saltiness. Of course you're going to be a little bit upset. And if that were to happen to me, for example, let's say if the new Bioshock game, and I always love to use Bioshock because my name's fucking Lone, but let's say if a new Bioshock game was to come out, and it was like completely different to what Bioshock is meant to be. Just say the new Bioshock game was completely different. Let's say it was a Call of Duty style FPS shooter game, for example. A really drastic example, but I'm trying to make a point here. If Bioshock, which I absolutely love and adore, changed that much to such a significant degree, I'd feel the exact same way. I'd feel just as upset, I'd feel just as torn, especially because my expectations are going one way, and then of course the reality completely changes. So I do understand why some people that were looking forward to Prey 2 are still somewhat upset with what Prey is now, because it is a completely different game and it's a huge divergence. However, even bearing that in mind, and again, I completely understand those views, I completely understand those thoughts. If it were to happen to me, I'd be just as upset, so I'm right there with you. But what I do want to say is that I do feel that if you are of that opinion that Prey has changed too much and you're a bit upset about it, I still do think that you should give this new Prey a chance. And I say this as someone that has played the game for over an hour or so and seen what it's like. At least from what I've seen, it is a solid game. It's a really, really good game, particularly from a narrative perspective, and I'm not going to give away too much, obviously, but straight away, the story grips you. Straight away, you want to know what's happened to your character, and the background, and the reasons why you're in the world, and the building you are, and working for the company that you are. It's incredibly gripping from the get-go, and it's not sci-fi alien bounty hunting, but it's still something that's compelling to me personally, and maybe because this game is very Bioshocky and very System Shocky, and I'm saying this from a position of bias, but the point that I'm trying to get across is that not just the story, but the gameplay as well, this game has a lot of promise, and I think people, even though they're still salty about Prey 2, should at least give it a chance. Because there is another game, another example, in fact from the very same publisher, Bethesda, that also had a different game in development, completely ceased the development of that game, like with Prey 2, rebooted it, like with Prey 2 into now Prey, and then went on to be one of the most critically acclaimed shooters for that year. And that game, of course, was Doom in 2016. If you actually do a bit of research, and I'll just, for example, show you what Wikipedia says about Doom, Kotaku reported on this, and it says the following. In April 2013, Kotaku published an expose describing Doom 4 as trapped in development hell. Citing connections to id, the article claimed that Doom 4 had suffered under mismanagement and that development was completely restarted in 2011. Sources described the pre-2011 version, which was to portray the uprising of Hell on Earth, as heavily scripted and cinematic, comparing it to the Call of Duty franchise. The pre-2011 version was criticized as mediocre, whereas the sources also described the new version as lame and a mess. However, we now know that the new version was certainly not lame and a mess. Say what you want about the multiplayer, but everyone that I've spoke to, at least the vast majority of people that I've spoke to and that I've seen comments of, absolutely loved Doom. Again, it was one of the most critically acclaimed games for that year. I saw that it was voted for a number of Game of the Year awards, which I think is deserved. On Metacritic, it's got an 85 Metascore based on 44 critics. And get this as well, which mind you, this is actually very difficult to get a great user score on Metacritic for a vast variety of reasons. But based on 1900 ratings, Doom has an 8.3 user score. That's huge. That's incredibly positive towards that game. And again, it was a game just like Prey 2 that already had something else in development, Doom 4, that sounded kinda cool. The uprising of Hell on Earth sounds like a cool concept, like bounty hunting was, and due to a variety of reasons that really will never be found out, the game was rebooted and ended up being one of the most critically acclaimed games of 2016. Ended up being an incredible, visceral shooter. Yeah, the story was a bit lackluster, but playing that single player game was so much fun. Playing through the campaign was an incredible experience. It took a lot of people back to what just gaming was. And I'm using this as an example to say that just because Prey is different to what Prey 2 used to be, that doesn't mean it's going to be bad. It doesn't mean that it should be treated less favorably because there was this seemingly cooler concept of the game beforehand. When a game gets in development hell and it's rebooted, you're gonna have to assume that it's done for the right reasons. Yes, we don't know the true reasons, but you have to assume that that's the case because that decision of the publisher involves wasting all of the money and resources you've just put into that game until that point and completely rebooting it. That's a huge risk, and they're obviously doing it for a reason. Very likely because they think that the game was never going to be good, and they didn't want to continue development of that game. Similar to Scalebound, for example, with Microsoft this year. A lot of people were disappointed, but think it from the perspective of the publisher. I'm sure they would have loved to have continued that game, but didn't do so and were willing to forgo all the money that was put into it, because in their opinion, it wouldn't have come to fruition. And Prey 2 seemed to have been in a very similar position, regardless of how cool the concept was, and I agree, the concept was cool, being that sci-fi bounty hunter, but there must have been a good reason why it was rebooted and changed to the game it was now. And the game, in my opinion, does look promising. It does have a very intriguing story and narrative from the get-go. It does look like it could be a very good game just like Doom was. And I think that people should give it a chance even though it's not what you have wanted. I would have been just as upset if I was also invested in Prey 2. The reality is I just wasn't, and I look at Prey right now, 2017, and think, this looks like a cool game. It's got a great story, the gameplay's fun as well. When I was playing it, I had a blast, especially with the glue gun. That was absolutely fun to use, and moving turrets around and killing enemies. It was just fun to play. And yes, maybe I'm biased as well because it plays like Bioshock and it has a lot of Bioshock and System Shock references. So maybe I like it a lot more because of that. But nevertheless, the cancellation and rebooting of Doom 4 to Doom 2016 shows that games that are stuck in development hell and are rebooted can become incredible games, and there's a very strong chance, based on my experiences with Prey so far, that the exact same could happen with Prey. We don't know whether that's going to be the case or not, but all I'm saying is that people should at least give it a chance. You might not like it, and that's completely fine, but at least you gave it a fair go. Again, I've played it. It was an early version, so it still needed a lot of polish. There were some frame rate drops here and there, but I still had a great time with it, and I am looking forward to playing the full game, so hopefully you do too. Anyways, Sanders, let me know what you think. This has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourself, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.